And then consequently, or I'm sorry, hold on. The Energies of God by Miguel L. Ferrandos, Athens University professor, from the book The Orthodox Teaching on God, Athens, 1985, Chapter 7, pages 423 through 478. And then this is consequently, this will be like the last part, but consequently, it starts off with that first word being in that paragraph. So, once again, consequently, the conflict regarding the divine and uncreated energies which appeared during the 14th century between the Latin monk Varlaam and his student Akindynus on the one hand, and Saint Gregory Palamas on the other. So, the Latin monk Varlaam had a student named Akindynus, and on the other hand, Saint Gregory Palamas on the other. Was not the first instance where the issue of the divine energies was brought up. On the contrary, it was rather a rekindling of the very ancient quarrel between the Holy Trinity, naturally now in a new form, and a different variation thereof. Gregory Palamas had undertaken the heavy burden of completing and systematizing the teaching on energies based on the overall Orthodox dogmatic tradition, which was precedent to this time. The existence, therefore, of the divine energies, which are distinguished apart from the energy and hypostases of God, constitutes a teaching that has existed from time of the major Hellenic Fathers. And this is the teaching that is recognized, at least by Orthodox tradition. Prior to the Cappadocian Fathers, theology was rife with commentaries on divine energies. Nevertheless, the issue of how they related to the divine hypostases was never brought up. The authors of this period made references to the divine energies without concerning themselves with whether the energies related to the divine hypostases or if they comprised a separate kind of reality in God, or in what kind of relationship they were to the essence and the divine energies personified. Oh. Or in what kind of relationship they were to the essence and the hypostases of God. One such example is Macarius the Egyptian, who in his homilies made frequent references to the divine energies and to the other meanings that relate to energies. For example, grace. Macarius the Egyptian would present the divine energies personified as though acting on their own. For example, in one place he says, in various ways does grace mingle with them, and in many ways does it guide the soul. Library of the Hellenic Fathers, 41, 252. And elsewhere he presents the divine energies as though dependent on the divine hypostases. Example, the Lord gives grace. When he comes and dwells within us, Library of Hellenic Fathers, 4287, and elsewhere he presents them as one, energy. Example, by the three hypostases of one Godhood, Library of the Hellenic Fathers, 42, 144, etc. This is why Gregory Palamas rightly acted by never, or at least rarely, making mention of any authors prior to the Cappadocian theologians. When consolidating the teaching on divine energies, the sole exception in this case was Athanasius the Great, who, albeit not making any special mention on divine energies, nevertheless speaks very clearly on discerning not only between the three hypostases, but also between nature and its volition. Compare with Athanasius against Arians, B23. I think he's like when he does stuff like this, I think he's talking about like verses or homilies of like what the church fathers had in their homilies. So it might be book 2, 3, and chapter 62. That might be what he means by that demarcation. Anyway, Library of Hellenic Fathers, 30, 180 to 181. Also on the Nicene Synod, 31, Library of Hellenic Fathers, 31 to 171. Thus, according to Athanasius the Great, the sequels and the works of nature and those of volition are entirely different things. That which is born belongs to nature, and which is made belongs to volition, without any actual discerning between divine nature and its volition. It would not be possible to discern the products of nature and the products of God's volition. That is between the Son, the Spirit on the one hand, and the works of nature on the other. Volition, however, does not relate to nature, but differs from it and is discernible. It is the energy and the power of nature. Patrologia Gracia, looks like chapter 127. The difference between nature and volition in God constitutes one of the foremost arguments in Orthodox theology. Whenever it supports the true distinction between divine essence and its energies that it professes. Basil the Great against Eunomius, Book 23, Library of the Hellenic Fathers, 52, 216 through 217. Volition is not an essence. It is something instrumental to the essence. On the Holy Spirit, H21, I don't know what H is. I'm going to leave 21. Library of the Hellenic Fathers, 52 to 48. Similarly, Cyril of Alexandria to Similarly, Cyril of Alexandria, he's quoting, to make belongs to energy, whereas to give birth belongs to nature. Nature and energy are not the same thing. Treasures 18, Patrologia Gracia 75, 312. Also, Athanasius the Great, pseudo-paragraphed, Dialogue on the Trinity. Library of the Hellenic Fathers, 36, 48, 49, 70 through 73. An extremely in-depth philosophical, theological analysis of the difference between the essence and the volition is made by the unknown author of the text. Oh, so that's what they mean by pseudo-paragraphed. Okay. Which have been attributed to the apologete Justin. Christian questions addressed to the Hellenics. Chapter 1, Library of the Hellenic Fathers, 160 onwards. Also, John de Damascene, in the precise edition of the Orthodox Faith, I-8. Published by B. Cotter, 1973, 18 onwards. Finally, also according to Gregory Palamas, energy is the volition of nature, chapter 53. Compare with book 167. However, the theology on the existence of the divine energies, which are truly discerned from the divine essence and the hypostases, is based exclusively on the oros of the fourth and fifth ecumenical synods, where mention is made of the two natures and the two volitions and the two energies of Jesus Christ. That is, the divine and the human, compared to Oros, 4th, 5th, and 6th ecumenical synods, and the work Monuments by John Camiris, 1960, pages 175, 185 through 200, 222 through 224. This was expressed by St. John of Damascene. Thus, when referring to the one God-human energy of Christ, we understand it as implying the two energies of his two natures. That is the divine energy of his godhood and the human energy of his humanity. Compare with John Damascene, reference 319, B. Cotter, 1973, page 162. Similarly, Sudept Athanasius the Great, Sermon on the Annunciation, 6, Library of the Hellenic Fathers, 36 and 209. All the above have been brought up in order to avoid heretics who have mixed things together and have drawn the same place the essence and energies and have mixed things together and have drawn into the same place the essence and the energy of the one only begotten one, Gregory of Nyssa, against Eunomius B. 1, 331. Some of these references are just... Oof. Therefore, when expounding the present chapter on the energies of God without neglecting the remaining related witness of Orthodox dogmatic tradition, we should firstly base ourselves on the two shapes of the Orthodox teaching of the divine energies. That is on Gregory of Nyssa and Gregory Palamas. I'll add some notes to it later.